This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
We have got a really fun slate on tap in week number 11 in the NFL. Got things off last night, maybe on a bit of a sour note with the Commanders and the Eagles, but we can bounce back. We have got the Ravens and the Steelers, Chiefs and the Bills, and some pretty fun props to discuss in both those games and across the entirety of the week 11 slate. We're going to break down the top player props and touchdown picks for week 11 by talking to Annie Nader of FanDuel Research, picking her brain on her favorite bets for this weekend. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as mentioned by Annie Nader. You can find her on X at anader33. Find her work over at FanDuel Research, where she is a writer for us covering both the NFL and the NBA. Annie, happy Friday to you. How you doing today?
I'm good, Jim. Excited for the slate this week. A lot of divisional matchups, a lot of teams in must-win spots, and of course that Chiefs-Bills game, which we're going to talk about later. So very exciting weekend of games. It
should be a fun one. I'm excited. We're going to break down both those games in depth. We don't typically do like single games here on the prop show, but I think with those two games specifically, it definitely does warrant increased discussion. So we'll dive deep on both the Bills and Chiefs and Ravens and Steelers to get you set for both those games, in addition to Annie's top bets elsewhere. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Our NFL Week 11 Best Bets show with Dubs Anderson is posted, breaking down Dubs' best bets for this weekend, including thoughts on both those games as well. College football show. We had Kent Padgett on Wednesday breaking down his thoughts on this week's slate there. So find those on the Covering the Spread podcast feed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hit subscribe there if you like what you hear. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. And of course, these shows now go up on our brand new YouTube page, along with the DFS show as well. That is up for the week 11 main slate via myself and Brandon Gadula on YouTube. Hit subscribe there. Turn on notifications if you want to get notified as we go live Monday through Friday, and make sure you give us a thumbs up as well. We appreciate those of you watching on YouTube as always. The NBA is back, and FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, wants you to catch all the action. And right now, FanDuel's giving everyone 3 months of NBA League Pass. All you have to do to catch every tip-off and buzzer beater is place any $5 bet on the NBA to get 3 months of NBA League Pass, courtesy of FanDuel. Make every moment more. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. After a 3-month free trial, the full price of League Pass will be automatically charged monthly. Cancel anytime, no refunds. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Limit 1 pass per customer. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, Annie, Audible here. You, of course, are a big NBA person. We got this League Pass offer for going on at FanDuel Sportsbook. You can't say the Celtics, your team. Who is your go-to League Pass team that is not the Celtics right now?
Maybe the Timberwolves, because I was so intrigued by them last year, and I'm very curious how it's all going to work out this year with the trade, obviously, but also the Knicks. Those are probably the two teams, because those are the two teams that are probably going to maybe give the Celtics trouble. Maybe not the Knicks after that season opener, but the Timberwolves have been a team where I'm like, Celtics, they've given the Celtics a tough time, so.
I do like that you got a little Knicks shade in there too. So good answer across the board from Annie. Okay, let's talk now about NFL week number 11. And let's dive deep into these two games. Let's start things off with the 1 p.m. game. That is the Ravens at the Steelers. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Ravens favored by 3. Total in this game is 48.5. Now, we talked about the baseline markets in this game with Dubs yesterday, but Annie, when you check out the player prop markets that are posted right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, anything intrigue you for the Ravens at the Steelers?
Yeah, let's go to George Pickens' receiving prop.
We have to. Obligatory George Pickens propaganda here on the show. I am fully in.
Yeah, so I mean, the Ravens offense, it'll be interesting to deal with because they've been scoring nearly 32 points per game, and now they have to deal with the Steelers. The Steelers offense, on the other hand, like they get to play the Ravens in this pass defense, which the Ravens have an awesome rush defense. They have the third worst schedule adjusted pass defense, though. And George Pickens, I mean, 28% target share, 45% air yard share, 13.4 ADOT. He's also averaging 3 yards per route run since Russell Wilson took over at quarterback. And Pickens and Russell Wilson really haven't missed together. They've connected for 111, 74, and 91 yards in their 3 games together. So now when we put him in this type of environment, like a game that has a close spread, a high total, and a date with a very exploitable pass defense, like I'm expecting them to show us more of the same. And this number, while it is higher than it usually is for Pickens, it feels very fair.
Yeah, and I guess like my thoughts on the Pickens one, because I've been thinking about him too. We've talked about him a lot here on the show, and I tend to dabble in Pickens markets myself, as we discussed on the Monday Night Show a couple weeks ago. I was like, okay, the Ravens should know that George Pickens is the guy in the Steelers. So I was a little bit concerned initially, like, okay, they can allocate resources there, but Andy, that's been the case for all 3 Russell Wilson starts, and teams have still not stopped George Pickens. Like, he faced Sauce Gardner in the Jets, and he had a great, I think that's where he had a $111 in that game. Mentioned he's gone either near or over this prop in his other 2 games too. So I want to be scared of the fact that he's the Lone Ranger as far as a guy who can beat them, but like, it hasn't mattered yet. So why should it matter now?
Yeah, I mean, your concerns are definitely valid, especially since they have such a good run defense. Like, and the Steelers can't do anything there. Their run offense isn't good to begin with. It is a bit concerning, but the Ravens have just been so bad in every game, and Pickens has just been able to really get open in these last 3 games with Wilson. So I feel like I'm willing to go with him again, despite all that.
And I think the Pickens is a candidate for alt markets too. Once those are up, they're not up yet at FanDuel Sportsbook, but I think I actually want to check out both him and Zay Flowers in alt markets for this week based on Flowers market share. Once those are up, those will be a couple places I'm turning later on today. Okay, let's talk now about the afternoon game. That is the Chiefs and the Bills right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. The Bills are favored by 2.5 in this game, and the total decently high, 46.5. I kind of think that should be a little bit higher personally, based on my thoughts of this game. But Annie, what about you? Which player props stand out to you for the Chiefs and the Bills?
Yeah, my favorite prop on the board right now is Josh Allen anytime touchdown, which I believe is sitting at plus 140, which personally, when Josh Allen's touchdown prop is at plus odds, I'd say plus 120 and above. Obviously, you want to consider the match ball, all that, but I usually bet it. Last year, he ran in at least 1 touchdown in 12 out of 17 games. He's only run in 4 this season, but if we take these past 2 seasons, he's still scoring in more games than not. He's got a 27% red zone rush share. If we take that percent of opportunity and account for Buffalo's 23.5 implied total, these odds look pretty fair, and I would say more than fair. And the Chiefs aren't particularly limiting against QBs who want to use their legs. They're allowing them the 9th most rush attempts and the 11th most touchdowns. And Josh Allen versus the Chiefs, he's someone who likes to take over and try to do everything. Against the Chiefs, he definitely likes to do that. Last year in 2 games against them, including the playoffs, he rushed for a combined 3 touchdowns. This just is a spot where I really like him to score a touchdown in general. So to get it at plus 140, I'm pretty excited about.
I mean, you said the key thing there. This is something I do pretty much every week, is the Josh Allen anytime touchdown. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. Like, Hurts is like, he was minus 110 for last night to score. And both these teams do the tush push. And obviously, like you said, Allen only a rushing touchdown in 3 out of 10 games so far this year, but 56%, if you look at regular season games since the start of last year, which is way above the implied odds of 41.7% here. And this is to show that we're on the same page with this prop. I have been trying to be more active on social media. So I was on Blue Sky this morning trying to not be just the guy who tweets out links to his stuff, because that's super boring and all that. So I was like, okay, I'll tweet out like a stat that I like for a game. And it was Josh Allen rushing touchdown, 15 out of 27 games since the start of last year. So we are locked in on the exact same page here. You said plus 120. I think that's very fair. It's like a break-even point. So plus 140 to me, that's a great number to look at for sure for Josh Allen.
Yeah, everyone's got to get on Blue Sky. Follow Jim's picks.
We'll get Annie on Blue Sky too as well at some point. Yeah, I know that social media is just the worst. So I hear it for sure.
Our whole feed's just going to be Josh Allen anytime touchdowns.
Exactly. We'll get they have these things called starter packs. We'll have a FanDuel Research starter pack, and it'll just be repeating Josh Allen anytime touchdown and George Pickens props as well, because I am on board with you for that one too. But Annie likes Josh Allen plus 140 to score for the Chiefs and the Bills. Okay, Annie, I'm going to open up the board for you right now. Let's talk some yardage props. Which yardage props stand out to you across the entirety of week 11?
Let's go to this Browns-Saints game and check out Cedric Tillman.
Okay.
Set at 55.5 right now, which isn't particularly low, but the Browns are coming off a bye. Jameis Winston has started 2 games for them, making his 3rd start this weekend. He hasn't been all that efficient in the passing game. We know it's Jameis, but he's thrown 41 and 46 pass attempts in his 2 starts, and now he's getting a matchup against a pretty bad Saints defense, and they're playing indoors. Cedric Tillman has a 23% target share, 32% air yard share, and is averaging 5 downfield targets per game. With Jameis under center, and he's also leading the team in yards per route run. So he's their most efficient wideout. He's their most talented one. He's seeing the most air yards. Yes, we need Jameis Winston to throw good passes and not just throw passes in general. But considering all those market shares, considering the matchup indoors, everything that's going on in this game, this feels like a pretty good number for him to go over this weekend.
Well, you mentioned the yardage. You mentioned the fact that he's indoors, good matchup for him with no Marshall Lattimore, Paulson Adebo. But also, we got to consider, as All Ball mentions, it's a Jameis revenge game. That's the most important factor here. How much is the revenge game bump for quarterback passing efficiency for you?
I don't know about efficiency, especially I feel like Jameis in a revenge game is really just going to sling it to who knows where. But
right.
But no, it's exciting that it's a revenge game for him, and he seems to be having fun out there. So
yeah. And what I like about Tillman is that Jameis is erratic. Jameis is a difficult to predict passer, but it feels like for whatever reason, they've had a pretty good rapport so far, which has allowed Tillman to well clear this number so far. Even in the game where Jameis came in late, Tillman did pretty well there. A lot of that was from Deshaun Watson before his injury, but like, it does feel like they have a rapport, and I think that that's important too. So like, I think this connection has looked good so far between Winston and Tillman.
Definitely. I mean, connections, especially with like quarterbacks who are coming in mid-season who haven't really got a chance, the connections mean a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think out of all these receivers who they're all in like the Browns in general and DFS and props, like they're people that we want to start looking at now. But Tillman is probably the guy this week and in general moving forward.
Yeah, mini stacks with Kamara or Taysom Hill, running back with Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman. I'm very on board with that as well. Something we discussed in depth on yesterday's show too. Okay, so Annie is on Cedric Tillman over 55.5 receiving yards. That is -114 for the Saints and the Browns. What about touchdown props? Any other ones you like besides the Josh Allen one this week?
Yeah, I'm going to hesitantly go to this Packers-Bears game.
Okay.
And check out
I like the way we're
DJ
starting
Moore.
here.
Well, because I'm betting on the Bears to score a touchdown. So
okay, I get it.
But DJ Moore, which it's set down at +320, which I understand why that all the odds are long here for the Bears. They haven't scored any touchdown in 2 weeks. They haven't scored a passing touchdown in 3 weeks. The Packers ranked 10th in adjusted pass defense, so it's not like a great matchup for them either. The offense is in disarray. The vibes are low. Like everything about it is bad. But DJ Moore has a 24% target share, a 29% air yard share, a 31% red zone target share. And the Packers, I mean, they're allowing the 14th most yards per catch, the 13th most receiving touchdowns to wideouts. I'm also holding out some hope that we can get a vibe switch up with Shane Waldron getting fired. Given the comments post all that from the players, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But when we just look at Moore's market shares, like getting this at +320, despite everything with going on with the Bears, like it's almost like a number I can't deny. So I'm going to be looking there this weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned the vibes, and I feel like the vibes specifically with DJ Moore have been weird, but like you never know. Like, what if Shane Waldron was the reason that DJ Moore was so frustrated? Like, we don't know. We can't get inside DJ Moore's headspace and decide what's been causing him to have just a really weird year across the board. Maybe it's a possibility that the switch to Thomas Brown could be a good thing for DJ Moore, just like from a mental headspace perspective, because he specifically, Andy, I'm not sure about you, but like for me watching this team, he's been the guy who seemed most frustrated, but he still gets work. So it's like, I don't want to like overweigh watching him seem really frustrated. And we also could get like some squeaky wheel narratives. I think they're like, even though the vibes are bad, especially with him, I don't think that should toss us off of considering props for Moore this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes just like to try to take the narrative and the player and all that out of it and just straight up go, okay, what are the odds? What's the matchup? And what are the market shares? Which you obviously do have to consider those other things, but at +320, I mean, like earlier this week, this was set at +280, and I sort of flagged it as like a maybe.
Yeah.
Now that it's at +320, I think I got to go for it.
Okay, I like it. There's been some movement towards the Bears too in this game. I think the spread is like at 7. It's now down to 5.5. So bit of betting on the Bears here. It looks like in the market as well. So Annie's on DJ Moore plus 320 for an anytime touchdown. Okay, Annie, going to give you a same game parlay across week number 11. Which game you go into? Which legs do you want for that parlay?
I'm going back to this Ravens-Steelers game.
Okay, perfect.
You briefly touched on it earlier. Zay Flowers, George Pickens. I'm going to go both of them over yards, and I'm also going to add the over on later. But and this is something where once you add the over, I think it's the odds go up around the high plus 300s. But once the alt markets come up, this is definitely something where I'm maybe going to want to do George Pickens 80 plus 90 plus, and then Flowers 60 plus 70 plus. We touched on why we like George Pickens. Zay Flowers too. His game logs are pretty crazy. He's gone for at least 111 yards in 4 of his last 6 games, and then mixed in sub 40-yard games in between. It's like very hit or miss, but he's got a 26% target share, 29% air yard share. He's averaging 2.55 yards per route run. He's a great player, and he's getting great work, and he can go off, which is why I want to target him in the alt market when those come up and see what we can get this up to. And obviously he's in for a hard matchup, but in tacking on the over here, we're basically hoping for a shootout, which seems like we're hoping to get. And both rush defenses are really, really good. So I think just putting our faith in these two wideouts and in the over and in just the passing working out, then I like how these all correlate.
They definitely do correlate well because both those are big play guys. And if you get big plays out of your big play players, you're more likely to get an over. So this is currently Zay Flowers over 59.5, George Pickens over 70.5, and the over 48.5 plus 378 at FanDuel Sportsbook for that 3-leg same game parlay. I've actually got this total at 51.0, which I feel kind of weird about, but also like I do think it makes sense because the Steelers want to run the football, which does drag down their pace a bit, but I don't think they'll be able to in this game. So that should increase their pace a bit if they're forced to pass a bit more. And that's going to lead to George Pickens, as you discussed. And with Zay Flowers, I agree with you with the thought towards the alt markets with him because he is boomer busty, and he's a bit dependent on game state. Like if the Ravens get ahead, maybe that does not hit. But if you take an alt market on Zay Flowers, you're kind of safeguarded against that. As you said, 100 plus yards in 4 separate games already this year. He's kind of like, I mean, I say this for a lot of guys, but like Zay Flowers is kind of like the ideal guy for all markets just because you kind of want to take into account the fact that he can get scripted out in certain scenarios. But if it's a neutral script or even a negative script, like he can go absolutely bananas. So I think that he specifically, Annie, is a really good guy to target in this kind of spot. Yeah,
for sure. Zay Flowers is definitely probably my favorite player to bet in the alt markets. I like Pickens too. Russell Wilson took over, but Flowers in the alt markets is great. So I'm excited for those to pop up and see what kind of odds we get there.
Just a very fun game overall. So right now, this 3-leg same game parlay, Zay Flowers over 59.5 receiving yards, George Pickens over 70.5, over 48.5 total points is plus 378. But again, check out alt markets on Flowers and Pickens once they are posted at FanDuel Sportsbook. That is all that we have here for today and this week on Covering the Spread. Again, DFS show up on the YouTube page and the FanDuel Research podcast feed. NFL Best Bets Week 11, Dubs Anderson, and College Football Best Bets Week 12. Kent Padgett up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed and the YouTube page as well. Annie, appreciate the time as always. Good luck to you with Week 11. Enjoy the football this weekend, and we'll talk to you once again soon.
Thanks, Jim.
You can find Annie on X at Nader33. I'm on X at JimSannes, and also, as mentioned, Blue Sky, the same username at JimSannes there. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.